I want to go through a study that was done by the Legal Sales and Services Organization, which answers the most difficult question we always have, which is, how much time should I spend on marketing? How much time does a lawyer spend, and at what point does the tipping point occur so that you know that you're spending enough time and that you're getting the maximum back? In 2004 and 2012, to answer the proverbial question, how much time should I spend on marketing and what should I do in my personal business development, the Legal Sales and Services Organization commissioned landmark studies asking just that question of over 400 lawyers who are of counsel, partners, and senior associates in firms across the country, national firms, regional firms, one-office local firms. It's about a 300-page study. I've boiled it down to 4 slides. So here we go. For every hour weekly spent on personal business development, and I'll define what that means in a second, personal business development. For every hour weekly that the lawyers spent, on average, they generated $56,000 in new work on an annual basis. Not repeat work from the same client, new work from new clients. But there's a critical mass that's achieved. You can't spend half an hour and generate $23,000 in new work. It doesn't quite work that way. Critical mass being the point where a reaction takes on its own speed and repeats itself over and over. What is that? Well, lawyers that spent 1 to 2 hours generated this much work, 2 to 5 this much, 5 to 10 this much, 10 to 15 that much in new work on an annual basis. That's across all 400 plus. So there's clearly a tipping point there. And the tipping point is you want to spend 8 hours weekly. Now everybody in the room, when I say that, their gut just goes, man, that is forever. I don't have 8 hours weekly. When we write marketing plans, one thing we ask in the internal attorney survey is how much time do you spend a week and how much more time could you spend a week? Because we're trying to assess how much time is available. Because we've got lots of time available, then we'll suggest going lots of places and certain groups to join and things like that. If there's not much time, then we got to look where people are now and try to become more efficient with it. So it affects the marketing plan. But 8 hours a week is what really makes a difference. That's when you hit that number. The problem is that most of us are desensitized to when we might actually be in a business development situation. Frankly, for a lawyer, I would almost argue for any professional, certified public accountant, banker, no matter where you are, you're marketing. Just very sensitive. So it's the 8 hours a week. So when you look at what should you do, what are the differences between very successful lawyers and less successful lawyers on a personal marketing basis? What is it in these surveys from the Legal Sales and Services Organization? They broke the results down into what they called the so-called very successful cohort and the so-called less successful cohort. The less successful cohort generated about, I think it was $230,000 a year in new work, which is enough to, depending on what city you're in, cover your salary, your legal assistant's salary, and your desk costs. So that lawyer wasn't really throwing much money into the pot for the equity partners. The so-called very successful lawyers generated over $800,000 a year. What were the differences in their activities? In short, the so-called very successful lawyers, by a factor of 2 or 3, spoke, joined organizations, and engaged in client entertainment. So the mantra we came up with was speak, join, and party. That's the difference. And these are the things that they did differently. They spoke in front of trade and community groups by a factor of 3 compared to the so-called less successful lawyers. They joined business groups. They took leadership positions on committees or in the groups themselves, or for the group itself, the umbrella group. They also spent time with their clients and with referral sources, networking with them, discovering what those clients and referral sources needed to be successful in their business or their area of practice so that they could go out and advocate for those people as an unpaid third-party sales force. And they told very definitively their referral sources and their clients what was necessary for them to be successful within their firms so they could get more clients and referrals. They were very deliberate about this. Both groups, and that's why this bottom line is in yellow, were equally active in bar organizations.